Welcome to our webinar. My name is Renee Goldsmith with Corporate Fitness Works, and today we will be talking about how to use the glycemic index to eat healthy. We will go through an overview of carbohydrates. We will walk through what the glycemic index is and how to use it. And we'll also discuss the difference between glycemic index and glycemic load. Finally, we will end with how to use the glycemic index in your everyday life to make healthy choices. Carbohydrates are a type of nutrient in foods that can come in three different forms: sugar, starch, or fiber. When you eat or drink carbohydrate-containing food, your body breaks down the sugars and starches into a type of sugar called glucose. This is the main energy source for cells in your body. Fiber then passes through your body undigested. Two main hormones from your pancreas help regulate glucose in your bloodstream. The hormone insulin moves glucose from your blood into your cells. The hormone glucagon helps release glucose stored in your liver when your blood sugar, also known as blood glucose level, is low. This process helps keep your body fueled and ensures a natural balance in blood glucose. Different types of carbohydrate foods have properties that affect how quickly your body digests them and how quickly glucose enters your bloodstream. This is where the glycemic index comes into play. A value assigned to carbohydrate-containing foods based on how slowly or how quickly those foods cause increases in blood glucose levels is called glycemic index. The measure ranks food on a scale of 0 to 100. Foods with a high glycemic index are quickly digested and absorbed, causing a rapid rise in blood sugar. These foods that rank high on the GI scale are often, but not always, high in processed carbohydrates and sugars. Meanwhile, foods with a low GI are digested and absorbed at a slower rate and subsequently cause a slower rise in blood sugar levels. These are typically rich in fiber, protein, and/or fat. Keep in mind that a low GI or glycemic index doesn't mean a food is high in nutrients. You still need to choose healthy foods from all 5 food groups. When choosing carbohydrate-containing foods, you want to look for ones that are less likely to cause large increases in blood sugar levels, aka low on the glycemic index. Those include green vegetables, most fruits, raw carrots, kidney beans, chickpeas, lentils, and bran breakfast cereals are just a few examples. Now on the opposite end, your more rapid increases would be from white rice, white bread, or potatoes. There are some notable limitations to the glycemic index diet. A food's GI ranking only applies when a food is consumed on an empty stomach without any other type of food. As anyone who's ever eaten food knows, this isn't always how we eat. Pair a high GI food with a lean steak or a piece of salmon, a side of broccoli, and a salad with vinaigrette, and the protein, fiber, and fat all will serve to lower the glycemic index of the meal. In addition, the glycemic index doesn't take into account how much we're actually consuming. The GI value of a food is determined by giving people a serving of food that contains 50 grams of carbohydrate minus the fiber, then measuring the effect on their blood glucose levels over the next 2 hours. For example, a serving of 50 grams of carbohydrate in one sitting may be reasonable for a food such as rice, which has 53 grams of carbs per cup. But for beets, a GI ranking of 64 is a little misleading since beets have just 13 grams of carbs per cup. We would need to consume nearly 4 cups of beets in order to cause that spike in blood sugar levels. Just because a food has a low glycemic index does not mean it has a high nutrition content, and vice versa. Even though watermelon and a donut have the same glycemic index, we know that the healthier choice is a slice of watermelon. Where the glycemic index is a good way of making food choices, glycemic load helps to work out how different sized portions of different foods compare with each other in terms of their blood glucose raising effect. Glycemic load is a formula that corrects for potentially misleading glycemic index values by combining portion size and GI into one number. The carbohydrate content of the actual serving is multiplied by the food's glycemic index, then that number is divided by 100. So for a cup of watermelon, the glycemic load would be 11 times 76, which equals 836, divided by 100, equaling a glycemic load of 8.4. When we take glycemic load into consideration, we now see the values differ, and watermelon is much lower. If you're interested in learning more about glycemic index and glycemic load values, just head to glycemicindex.com for more information. The next few slides give you an overview of different foods and what their glycemic index number is. When looking at grains, we look and see that white rice has a glycemic index of 73 versus barley, which has a glycemic index of 28. In making a healthy choice, we might want to reach for barley instead of white rice in a recipe or dish. Another great example that we see every day is a baked potato, regular white potato versus a sweet potato. The baked potato is higher at 69 than the sweet potato, which is at 48. So that white potato is going to cause a spike in your blood glucose levels, whereas the sweet potato is not going to do that as quickly. Pineapple versus strawberries, you have a 66 versus a 40. So again, neither of these are bad choices. This is just giving you information on how each fruit or different type of food affects those blood glucose levels. I think this is a great example because it uses two of the same type of food. An instant oatmeal has the glycemic index of 83 versus a multigrain instant oatmeal, which has a glycemic index of only 40. So even though they're both oatmeal, they're going to affect that blood sugar differently. So it's always great to look at your ingredients, look at your nutrition values, and read your labels. And to round it out, our last example is a chocolate chip granola bar with a glycemic index of 78 versus a single dark chocolate square, which only has 23. I don't know about you, but I'd go for the chocolate. The bottom line, even though glycemic index isn't a perfect system, it can be a useful tool to identify lower glycemic foods that often are more nutrient dense, as well as foods that are higher in refined carbohydrates. Always consult your doctor before starting any new diets, especially if you have any metabolic conditions like diabetes, heart disease, and/or metabolic syndrome. Don't forget, if you have any questions, please feel free to email us or give us a call. We'd love to chat. We hope you learned something new in the webinar today, and be on the lookout for more to come in the newsletter. Have a great day.